When it comes to Beyblade, I'm obviously a huge fan of the Metal series. It's the generation of Beyblade I grew up with, I have a huge collection of Metal Fight Bays, and I've even rewatched the series recently and I still think it holds up as a great show. But as much as I love this specific generation of Beyblade, for some reason I've never actually branched out and watched any of the other generations. Now, I wasn't against watching OG Beyblade or Beyblade Burst one day, but I also never particularly felt the urge to go out of my way and watch them. Like, if one day down the line I did end up watching these other generations, cool. But if I didn't end up watching them, also cool. I was okay with that. But all of that changed when I started grinding the Metal series uploads. Because on a lot of my Metal Fight content, I would actually receive some comments about the other Beyblade generations. People would ask me if I've watched them, and if so, what are my opinions on them? But there was more. On certain videos, like the top 10 strongest characters of each arc, I would get some comments saying, hey, this is a cool video idea. It'd be awesome if you could do the same thing for Beyblade Burst. Just basically comments like that from fans of the Metal series and of other generations as well. Ultimately, these comments, along with the good things I've heard about other generations, finally caused me to cave in. I decided I was going to watch one of the other Beyblade generations. So I posted a poll asking which generation in specific you'd recommend to me, and I said that I'd watch whichever series wins the poll. Well, as you can see, Beyblade Burst won the poll by a pretty decent margin, so for the past week or week and a half, I've been watching Beyblade Burst, and I'm exactly 25 episodes in at the time of this recording. So this video is going to be basically a review of what I've seen so far, and keep in mind I went into this series as fair as I could be. I was cautioned that Metal Fight fans branching out to other generations doesn't always end well. The Metal series is just so unique with its extreme style that trying to switch to a more realistic style of Beyblade may come across as boring. So before diving into Burst, I accepted the fact that this series is fundamentally different from the one I'm used to, and I went into it with a positive mindset, ready to enjoy a new show. Now, before I give you my opinions, take everything with a grain of salt, because I've only watched 25 episodes. So now, my thoughts on Beyblade Burst 25 episodes in, so far so good. I've enjoyed the show up to this point, and I think it's really good. Now, I do have some, I wouldn't even say problems, but there are some things I'm not a huge fan of. Let's just start with our main character, Vault. I think he's a great MC. He's sort of got the zero to hero storyline going on, which you gotta love. It's definitely an interesting contrast from Jinga, the previous MC. Jinga was introduced as the strongest character in the show, at least initially. I mean, he did beat 100 bladers by himself. And then we have Vault, who started his show as one of the worst bladers. I mean, he was really bad. But through training and his determination, we're seeing him climb his way to the top. So, a really cool protagonist, but I do have some small critiques. Now, I know this show is made for kids, but I'd like to take Vault seriously a little more often. We do get some serious moments, like when he loses to Wakia, but it really seems like every time we're about to get a serious scene with Vault, it just turns into a joke. Again, not a huge problem. It is a kid's show after all, so I understand. My second issue, though, is more legit because it has to do with a writing decision. Basically, I think Vault gets strong way too fast. In episode 1, he struggled to launch his Beyblade into the stadium, but by episode 10, he's competing with the best of them. I'm okay with it, but it just feels a little too fast, and his progression comes off as unnatural. Literally, every win for him in the tournament is an upset. Honcho, Ken, Daigo, Hoji, and Wakia. Now, I know we needed Vault to go far so we could meet new characters and so we could get the Shu matchup, but as the tournament went on, it felt kind of forced. Like the writers were just dragging Vault through the tournament just to get him to the finals to face Shu. Personally, I think it would have been better if Vault lost in the semifinals, because I seriously think he had no business beating Wakia at this point. And if you really want Vault to get the Shu matchup in this tournament, just switch up the pairings. Have Vault versus Shu and Orochi Gimba versus Wakia in the semifinals. And then Shu would beat Vault, and Shu would go on to win the tournament, but we'd still get the Shu versus Vault matchup that we wanted. With my very limited knowledge right now, I think that would have been better. Moving on to one final critique, we have ties. I think battles end in a tie way too often in this show, at least at the beginning. I mean, it happens in almost every other matchup of the first tournament. I know it's probably a result of Burst being more realistic, but still, this many ties takes the, I don't want to say aura, but it does take the aura out of a draw. When I think of a tie in Beyblade, my mind immediately goes to Jinga and Kyoya duking it out to settle their eternal rivalry on the biggest stage possible. But in Burst, it happens like every other match. Like, there was a matchup where Vault tied someone like 10 times in a row. It's just overkill. But this is actually where I stop whining, because I'm a fan of almost everything else. Even though I'm used to the extreme battles of Metal Fight, I still find Burst matches very entertaining. I also like the concept of the regional tournament, which I'm in the middle of watching right now, and eventually the nationals. Another big positive for me is the characters. I already said I like Vault. Shu is and will probably stay my favorite character. I'm just a huge fan of the cool, super strong rivals. I like Ken and his Beyblade, resembling Damien. He also has a pretty cool arc of making his first friends and then having to say goodbye. Daigo's really cool. Whenever his avatar shows up with all the bats, it's super hype. And he's got his own Dark Tsubasa storyline going on, kind of. Right now, he's really struggling with the fact that he used a dirty tactic on Yugo, and he quit the Bay Club. You know it's real when someone quits the Bay Club. Honcho's pretty cool, I guess. Unfortunately, it looks like he's being relegated to the role of comic relief. He used to be a legit rival for Vault, but now it seems like all he does is just say some goofy line whenever the camera pans to him during Vault's matches. Wakia and Hoji have a cool Kyoya Benkei relationship going on, which I like. They're also always in the lab, which you gotta respect. Then we got Orochi Ginba, who's pretty cool. We just haven't seen much of him. And then we have the random addition of Xander. No joke, when he first showed up and picked up Vault's little siblings, I thought he was Vault's dad. But anyways, Xander's pretty cool. He showed us a completely different level of power, and we find out the Bladers we once thought were top tier in the first tournament are not the endgame. There should be stronger characters out there that we just haven't met. We also have Xander's whole Beyblade school, and it has a few powerful members. So yeah, overall, I'm really enjoying Beyblade Burst so far. Again, I'm halfway through Season 1. By the time you're watching this video, though, there's a good chance I might be done with Season 1 and on to Beyblade Burst Evolution, I think. But yeah, so far, so good for Beyblade Burst. I'm impressed, and I hope it gets even better. But that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Comment below what you want to see next, and I will see you in the next video.